Good morning, and thanks for having me.
I hope you're well, Prof.
Absolutely. Doing very well. And I hope you are too.
I'm also doing well. And I'm sure, and first of all, I want to find out whether Prof followed the outdooring yesterday throughout, from the beginning.
Absolutely. I think it was a talk of the town, so all of us were glued to the TVs and Facebooks and things to monitor.
Your impressions?
Well, I think that there is a resounding agreement, and I'm sure those who are on the social media spaces, especially my Twitter folks, there is a resounding agreement of absolute confidence, control, aspirations, hope in what transpired yesterday. If there were any doubters of the possible, performance of the running mate in terms of the campaign going forward, I think it got vanished yesterday. The speech was rousing, was focused, was well controlled, and absolutely futuristic. I think that you could use quite a lot of words to describe it. But one thing that was sure was that the NDC is absolutely united going forward behind their two leaders.
So you're clear in your mind that from everything you're monitoring in terms of the comments on the event, her speech, that at least Prof has put all doubts to rest?
No, clearly. I mean, if you look at the environment, the hall, there was not a single person who actually came to the shore that you could see some doubt in their posture. There was not a single human being. The applause to the coming of the presidential candidate and the mentioning of the vice presidential candidate was amazing. Now, if you look at the body languages of anybody who was there, everyone who was there was absolutely positive. Now, if you look at the words that were uttered, they were sharper, they were focused, they were purposeful. There was no unnecessary jabs. Every jab that was thrown was meant to achieve something. And the people responded in awe. So I think that from what transpired in the UPSA auditorium, I am sure that almost every backer of the NDC is convinced.
And you talk about, you see, unity within the party. From this event, what were the signs for you?
Which of the power blocks in the party you wouldn't see? Didn't you see at the auditorium? Almost every perceived and known power block in the NDC was in the auditorium, or their associates were there. That alone tells you that there is a unity in purpose. And not only that they were there, you could see the hearty chattiness they had with the presidential candidate and the vice presidential candidate. So you couldn't have any measure to talk about unity other than what I have just enumerated. Rank and file was absolutely in joyous mood.
Now, having said that, because of course, like you said, you have paid particular attention to the non-verbal aspect, the verbal aspect, everything. But there will be also, everybody too will be also paying attention to how the NDC comes across with this event, because this means that they have a completed presidential ticket. So they are outdooring their ticket with this. We're outdooring only Professor Naana Opoku Agyeman, but it's the whole ticket that was outdoored yesterday. Did they send a right signals to the average voter?
Okay. Now, what does the voter want to see, especially in the context of a very uninspiring administration? The voter wants to see first there is unity in the perceived next government. The voter wants to see there is leadership, that there is a certain boldness in, call it the shadow president or the shadow leadership. The voter wants to see that there is a sense of purpose from day one. The voter wants to see certain symbols and signs of deliverability from day one. The voter wants a certain assurance that indeed it would happen if their votes actually given. I'm not sure which of these were not present in yesterday.
Prof, what about the tone for you? Did they capture the right tone from the General Secretary Chairman through to the former president, who is the flagbearer of the party, and then to Professor Naana Opoku? Was the tone you expected at such an event?
I think there was not a single or a half of any sense of doubt in their tone. Anybody who spoke was full of confidence and they were in control of what they're saying. Very purposeful. So for me, I think that the NDC, it looks as though it had rehearsed this event right from even the MC, exuded sense of purpose. It was as though it had been rehearsed. So you would say that the tone was absolutely on a high. Now, I wouldn't even use tone as in the verbal ones, but look at the fieriness in their eyes. And I was actually telling one radio station that the fire that was in Professor Naana James' eye would only tell you one thing: somebody who is ready to pounce. And that's part of the tone. It was almost like a very calm river with a very torrential movement underneath. And so you saw the way she stood on the podium, the way she pegged her legs, and the eye contact she had with the camera. You could see she was watching from the corner of her eyes. And I tell people that if a woman is angry, usually you don't see that in their arms and legs. They don't show that one. They show with their eyes. And you can check. Whenever a woman is angry, you can see it from their eyes. The fire in that woman's eye was unbelievable, especially when it came to point of accountability. You could feel her tone in her eyes, even if you don't want to concentrate on the words she was saying. The power of the words itself were in the eyes of that woman. So the tone and pace, absolutely spot on. It's as though they meant every word that they said, from responsibility, taking responsibility, to accountability, making sure that people will account for what they have done in power. If you want to extract the meaning, watch the eyes of the running mate. It spoke a lot more than even the words she was offering.
And Prof, you keep going back to the messages that were shared. Were they the right ones?
Absolutely. I mean, from their vision to what they would want to do, with the current performance of the administration, especially accountability. Which corner of this country would you go not to hear people calling for justice to prevail for people who have looted the assets of this country? Almost everybody, including the backers or the followers of this particular administration, every single Ghanaian is demanding that whatever has been stolen from this dear country must be retrieved. And that was founded rightly from the presidential candidate to the running mate. Almost everybody spoke about it. From the dilapidated economy to the hospitals to the schools, they spoke about every one of these. And a caution to their own followers, which the presidential candidate rightly said that you are likely to be in shock. Of course, we have a track record, we have a history to fall on to say, is it really going to happen? Because we had a certain Naana who said that if you want to be rich, not in his government. What do we see? He mentioned, I will be the protector of the public purse. What do we see? So it would be right for people to say those tones and to ask whether it would be done or it could be achieved. But I would say perhaps you want to watch the eyes of the running mate to tell you whether they would do it or not.
And Prof, the bigger issue now is your area, marketing.
Mm-hmm.
You are impressed with the outing in this direction, but ultimately, how do you think she should be marketed, she should be positioned to attain maximum results for the NDC?
Targeted. The campaign has to be absolutely targeted. The mass media campaign is long gone. We must, speak to people individually. And when I say individually, in terms of identifiable groups, you have to speak to the teachers, you have to speak to the nurses, you have to speak to the engineers, you have to speak to the mothers, you have to speak to the fathers, you have to speak to the young people. Now, all these people could be properly and expertly dealt with by different groups. So if we take, for example, the young people and the mothers who have the skill set and the insight to actually deal with them. Absolutely the vice presidential candidate because of her natural instinct as a woman. So you want to properly segment and target the voter groups and direct in a certain personality to have a direct engagement with them. And so for me, the trick is about having identified groups and targeting them with what you have in terms of not only the two tickets or the two of the tickets, the president and the running mate, the presidential candidate and running mate, but even the entire campaign team and the entire party structure. People must be identified and targeted at a certain segment for effective results.
And there are various schools of thoughts as to where she should be deployed. I mean, the running mate of the NDC should be deployed. There are some who says, let's say, focus on the what is the group of people that I usually call the middle class. There are those who says, I think that appeal should be towards women and the youth. What's your own thought on that?
When it comes to segments, there are some that are very visible, the characteristics of segments that are visible to us. So it is easy to say that. I mean, I always say that politics, just like sports or football, because it's a lived experience, almost everybody thinks that they are expert in it. They forget that it's a science. So what would look as though it's obvious in your eyes may not necessarily be so. You have to go through the science to be able to identify which groups someone must take. So I appreciate all of us, our sense of inclusion and wanting the best of the party. I think that people who should hold their horses and allow the campaign team to do their work of coming out with proper guides for targeting the segment. I think it would work that way. Because we live with politics, everybody thinks that they can offer ideas and they would work. Just like football, everybody seems to be a coach. It doesn't work like that. There are people who have competencies in doing so, and these people have been rightly chosen and considered into a campaign team. They should allow those people to work.
And let me conclude on this note. You mentioned it yourself. Their own caution to the party members, from the national chairman through to the flag bearer himself, who also emphasized that, where he says they'll be surprised, those who are already putting themselves in certain position even before the party is able to successfully win power. Does that send a good message?
Absolutely. I think there was a reason why they chose that platform to say that. You would cringe, isn't it? You would think that this has to be a matter for the house, for the home. Usually we say, if you have them, right? But I am sure in the wisdom of the leaders, this was the best platform to send that signal for everybody in this country to know that they're not joking. So for me, it was clear, it was concise, and it meant for a certain purpose. And I think they thought that it was the right platform to use.
Great. Prof, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Thank you for having me.
And of course, we'll have many more conversations with Prof on this going forward. That's Professor Kobby Mensah joining us.